guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel, and I know we are ready to announce our winner to our last giveaway. And of course, before we start with anything, I am going to announce the winner to our last giveaway. And forgive me if I pronounced your name wrong. You know, it's no, actually you don't know, but I'm about to do it right now. It's Yairet Estrada. I don't know. I'm trying my best, and I think that sounds very right, but if I got it wrong, we will have your name listed as well down below. And then it is Christmas month. We are going to do another giveaway, and this time it's going to be a surprise giveaway. So to enter the giveaway, make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, make sure you guys ring the bell and leave a comment down below to enter. All right guys, so I wish you guys all the best of luck. And for today's nails, I'm actually gonna do something, recreate something that I've done on my Instagram, because you guys loved it so much on Instagram, but I didn't want to recreate with the same color, so I kind of switch it up. It's the exact same design, but it's in a different color, and I incorporate some Old English in with Christmas design, Old English and Christmas design, but I'm gonna use a blue color today, so it's not gonna be as easy. Well, it's easy on all of them except for the Old English. It'll be easy once you get it down. All right guys, check it out. So I already pre-shaped the not pre-shape, but pre-apply on the nails, the other four first. Oh, let me turn off my machine, because I'm gonna focus more on the designs today. So I don't want to take up too much time, because if I take so much time in my application, I tend to speed up my design part. So I don't want to do that today, because we did focus a lot on our application in other videos. So this videos, we're gonna focus more on the design. So, but I still don't want to skip the application part. So I'm gonna show you one of the finger, okay? So I left one untouched, so I already had the tip glue on, and I shaped the tips to make sure that it's nice and even along the my free edge of my nails. And then now I'm gonna go in and sand down the nails and prep the nails. So I'm gonna go in, and I'm just using a medium grit sanding band. So usually I tell you guys I use my tornado bit to blend this part, flush the nail tip into the nail plate, but I'm not going to do that today because it's only one finger and I already have the sanding bit on. So I'm just going to go in directly with the it's kind of awkward, directly with the sanding bit, and smooth out and remove any skin, and make sure that we don't have any shiny spot visible, right? That can cause lifting. And I noticed in the last video my hair got caught in the video a lot, so I'm trying to lean back a little bit more and try to look at the TV a little bit more so I don't get in the way of you guys. And again, this is a brand new tip and I haven't cut it yet. So this is how I always line my nails, measure my nail, is always line it cuticle to cuticle. So these three should always match in length. The pinky, I like to keep it a smidge shorter, because the pinky does get in the way and it's shorter, and the nail bed is a little bit smaller, so it could break easier if you keep it a little bit longer like the rest of them. And you can see like how the nail bed, you see how they all line up and they're the same length. And if we're working on a client or ourselves, if you want to be really sure, we're going to go in with a little bit of acetone to make sure we remove all the dust and the nail oil. And then after that, we're gonna go in, remove it, and then we're gonna use our triple X bond to prime the nails. And as you can see, the nails gonna turn really white, and then we're gonna use the triple X bond on the nails, right? Okay, now we're gonna bond the use the primer on the nails. And it's okay if you guys want to double prime. So now that's done, just one finger, so I'm going to use a smaller piece of paper, and I'm going to show you guys more of my application as well. Okay, got it, back at it. We are going to be using number M68. It's one of my favorite nude. It's called Peaky Nude. Peaky Nude. Always give it a nice tap before we open it, because we don't want the powder to spill. And this powder is kind of empty, so I'm going to fluff it, and then fluff it up and bring it towards me. So you want the mountain to build up towards you. It's easier to pick up the bead as well. And then I'm gonna go for a large bead. I always go for a large bead in the beginning, and I'll move that out of the way so we don't have too much. I'm gonna go in, retain about 80% of the monomer in my brush, pick up a larger bead, and then I'm gonna place it right above where the extensions of the nail, fake nail, and the nail plate is at. When it's colder, it will tend to run a little bit more, and when it runs, we're just gonna go ahead and push it upward like this. Hold it in place, okay? Because once it's a little bit runnier, if we go ahead and drag it down, it can end up taking too much product off the nail, and we don't want that. Am I still in focus, Aaron? Mm-hmm. And then now, once it dries, I'm gonna lightly dip in my monomer. And as you do this, make sure we keep the shape of the nails as well. And then once you have it down, while it's still kind of runny, we're gonna tap it back to make sure we level out the product, okay? Because as we drag down, some spot we're gonna have like a slight dip in it, and some spot might have a little bit more product. So by looking at it on the side, I kind of tap it upward and kind of level it up a little bit more, and then make sure we make it super straight across the nail. Make sure it's super straight across the nail like that, okay? And I haven't even shaped the other nails yet, but I can show you like how smooth the application is. Like, so I'm gonna spend a little, not too much time smoothing out the top of my nails or shaping, because the shape looks actually pretty taper before we have to do all that. That's why if we get this part down nice and neat, the speed will come with it, okay? I have to keep the other finger out of the way. Second bead, I'm gonna let it flush into the cuticles actually. When it's kind of runny, I'm gonna let it naturally just flush into the cuticles and push it upwards like this. Hold it in place. And then hold it in place. Make sure we hold it in place. Don't get nervous and start dragging it down, because we might end up taking too much product off. So now this is when I pull the product downward. And then if spill on the edges, make sure we clean it up, and then I'm gonna push it up. And you can see I'm looking at my nails on like more of a side view as I do this as well, to make sure my apex is in the right spot. And again, if you have your apex in the right spot, we don't need to make the nail super thick, okay? It's the wrong placement of the apex that can cause your nails to break easily. So if your apex is in the wrong spot, it could be really thick and it will still break. And then if your apex is correctly placed, you don't need that much product on the whole nail. It's just on the right spot. And this is where we would usually place the apex, right there. That's because that's the stress point of the nails. So the nails always break at the stress point. And I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a zoom in on how it looks. Really flush to the cuticles. Okay, so now this is good. We're going to go in with our 5-in-1 cross bit again. Okay, so we're gonna go in with the 5-in-1 cross bit to pre-shape the nails and shape. Okay, let's go in and pre-shape. Again, on the right, we go upward like this. Taper in. And don't try to cheat and make the nail smaller than your nail bed, okay guys? It doesn't look good either. And on the right, I usually go downward like this. I have it at like a 11 RPM. Very light. I'm not going at like a high speed. So this way I can control like how much of the nail I'm taking off. Because if you run it at like a higher speed, what if you end up taking too much on one side, right? So this way I'm just slowly taking a little bit off at a time. And once the shape looks good to me, as you can see, just pre-shaping the middle finger. You see how good that looks already? So that already gonna save me a lot of time in shaping, right? So once it looks good on both angles, I kind of speed up my Dremel a little bit more, and I'm gonna go in and smooth out the cuticle. So this is very important why we only want a little bit of very thin product in the cuticle, is because we want it very flush and thin around the cuticle, that it's very, you only have to go in it like very lightly one time, and then that's good. And then I always, again, we always look at our nail at an angle. Once I get into the cuticles and the cuticle looks good, I always turn my finger at an angle. This way I can look to see where the nail is uneven at, like is there any dip in it or anything like that I need to remove. So this way I can go in. Make sure we taper in, and as I go down, I kind of angle my bit upward a little bit. So this way the tip of my brush is not causing dents as I go down. That's why when I go downward, my Dremel always kind of like angle up a little bit like that. Okay, so it looks really smooth and even on this side, but that's not done yet. I always flip it on this side as well to make sure both sides are equally smooth and well level. Once it looks good, I'm gonna go in with my Notpolish hand file. And again, the monomer that I used earlier is the Notpolish medium set-in monomer. And when it's cold in your area, and like how it's cold right now, the product tends to run a little bit. You either can keep your powder on your table lamp to heat it up, and before you use it, give it a good stir to make sure all the heat is evenly distributed throughout the jar. Or if you don't want to do that, you can keep your monomer actually like in towel warmer, like your big bottle. Just warm it up a little bit. Just keep it in a towel warmer, warm it up a little bit, and then use it when you take it out. And that will help your product from running so much. And remember, we always divide this nail into 3 parts. Part 1, part 2, part 3. Okay, so I'm gonna taper in my first part. I always go in like an angle like this, inward, because we want to taper the nail in, right? We want to taper the nail in, so we go inward like this, in. And the second part we go down, and then now we work at the third part. So always just think when you're working, divide it in 3 parts, and make sure we get the bottom of the nail as well, this bottom right here, okay? Because don't just keep focusing on the top and then the bottom is very jagged. We make sure that's very smooth and nice and even as well. And then this part as well, first part, second part. I don't know if I choose the hardest finger to work with. Middle finger. I should have done the index, but the index is not dry yet, so that's why I'm working with the middle finger. So it doesn't look like I'm working in 3 sections, but I am first, second, third. And now that looks good. I always look at this way as well. So now, I didn't mean to flick your eyes off. Okay, so this way looks good, and then I always look at it from this angle, and then now that looks straight, I'm gonna give a nice straight across. And then at this point it's done and straight, I flip it around and see, and then now I'm just gonna clean it up just a tap it at the bottom to make sure that it's nice and thin right there, just right at the top. I'm gonna go in at an angle and smooth it out. And after we're done this, we're gonna go in and buff the nails nice and smooth. Give it a nice little, and then just showing you guys that is super straight against my file. And you can see even this middle finger is file and the rest of them are not, but you can see how application is very important because the rest of them look just as nice right next to the middle finger, right? All right, so I already have the nail shaped, all of them shaped and nice and buff. And before we paint on our nail art, we're gonna go in with the matted top coat. The matted top coat. Oop. The matted. Oh, that's not matted. We're gonna go in with the matted top coat. Now it's the right matted, and we're gonna paint a thin layer on the nails and then cure it for 30 seconds before we paint it. You know why we do that, right? Because after we're done with the nails, they're nicely buff and file, and there's gonna be some fine hairlines that's in the nails that we don't see. So sometimes when we paint our especially our fringe or our line worked on, we don't see that line. The paint is going to get deposited in those fine lines. That's why we do the matted top coat. Okay, so the top coat is on, nice and smooth, and now we're gonna go in with this. Actually, a lot of people liked this design on my Instagram, so I want to recreate it, but in a different color because sometimes I don't like to recreate this. Well, not anymore, but I'm gonna use a different color, and this is M70. This is like, it's called Ex-Boyfriend. If you get it in a powder as well, it's just as equally pigmented. It's very pigmented blue. It's like a navy blue. And then I'm gonna drop a little bit. Actually, look what I did. I don't have my little dish and too lazy to get up, so I'm just gonna drop it on there. And I am using a different art brush than what I normally use. This is the XL art brush, and it's actually longer than the other brush that I use. Can you see? It's a little bit longer than my art brush. The regular art brush is a dual head as well, but it's a little bit shorter. And usually I paint with a shorter brush, but I want to switch it up. You know, you want to be able to do. And as you can see, I do have a little bit of paint left, the white paint. I'm just gonna fold my brush, my towel, and just give it a nice swipe to remove the rest of it off. Like I said, I don't really use any brush cleaner or anything like that on my brush, right? This I'm gonna do the deep French, so I always start with this corner first. If you guys are not used to doing it, we're gonna find the center of the nail, so all the way from top to the bottom, find the center, right? So that our French is always centered. Once that looks nice and straight, we're gonna go in and color it. I'm actually gonna use the brush this time because this color is so pigmented. I'm gonna give a nice thin coat on the bottom first. As you can see, I did not use the brush for my polish bottle to fill in my French, because you can see that I did that on the thumb, and the more stroke, after each stroke, you can see like the unevenness of the polish, because the hair on these brushes are actually harder. So when it's hard like that, when you go to pull the polish off, you can actually see like the uneven stroke in it. That's why I use the painting brush, the art brush, to paint in my French, because this brush, the hair is a lot softer. So when you use that to paint your French, you can actually get more of an even coat, and you only need one coat. Like, it's more even and more pigmented. It might take a smidge longer, but you don't actually need to do 2 coats unless the color is really light. But you can see like the difference. When I did the thumb, I had to spend a little bit more time to go back in with my art brush to kind of even it out as well. But if I use the art brush to paint on my French, I just finish it off like that. Okay, now we're done. Okay, that looks good. I'm actually gonna switch to maybe a shorter hair. So shorter hair for me to do like smaller details, I have more of a control, because when it's a bit longer, it's a little bit, maybe it might be a little bit harder to control. So I'm gonna go in and do the candy canes on these ones and on the flames, and I saved the Old English for the last, because that's gonna take a bit longer, and I'm gonna show you guys a little trick to doing it, because if you don't know this little trick, sometimes you don't know where to start with your Old English, and it becomes way too much and takes a lot longer. So I'm using the gel art. Oh, you know what, I could have just used it. Just gonna use this. So now I'm gonna do an outline of a white over it. If I was you, I might have to cure this first, just to be safe, you know, because if I do the white outline, what if I mess up on the white outline? I will actually have to wipe off the candy cane and start over. So just to be safe, we're gonna cure it first, right? And then I'm gonna go in with my gel art brush, and then I'm gonna use a long line. And then the trick to doing these lines, make sure you really just do one stroke, okay? Actually, I switched to the other head because I've been using this, so the brush, the hair on this brush is actually a little bit softer than the other one that I've been just storing in the cap. So I just switch it around so I can make my line. One stroke across. You see that? And then I'm gonna connect it. One stroke all the way up. And to be able to do straight lines, you just all you have to do is really learn how to know how to stabilize your finger against your hand, so you can just have one long motion, you know. Should I do glitter? No, too late. No glitter, because I wanted these to be matte. So now we're gonna cure it. Okay. Now I'm gonna do these sugar canes in these flames as well. Right? Remember, the trick to doing the candy cane is you have to have thicker lines and thinner lines, okay? Not just one side. Thick, thin, thick, and thin. Just be sure that when we do the outline, if we mess up when we wipe it off, the candy cane does not come off. So I'm gonna go in and outline it. Actually, I'm gonna find my center first. I always work in the center first, okay, just be sure. I usually have a dotting tool, but I don't have it, so I'm gonna use my scissors. And drag these beads out to keep it nice. So now I have like 80% of the nails all done. We're gonna go in and draw the rest of them in Old English. I'm gonna write it in blue actually. All right guys, I found the font that I like. So now we're gonna zoom in. Boom, zoom in. That's the H. Sometimes I like to combine fonts as well. So I'm actually gonna find a capital H. That looks like a lowercase A to me. I'm gonna find a capital. Okay, this looks more like a capital H. And what we're gonna do is I'm gonna actually, anytime you do in Old English, find the straight lines of the letter first. So this is where the straight line of the letter is at. I can't speak. I'm gonna do this first. Okay. Now we're gonna get in it. Oh, and here's another trick. I usually do the O first, just so once the O is on, I know to leave enough room for the H. Because sometimes if I do the H first, I accidentally make it too big, and by the time I go to do the O, it takes up too much of a room. So this way I can kind of divide it up easier for me. So I actually start with the second letter first. So again, we're gonna find the straight line. That's the trick to doing the Old English. So it is time consuming, but if you know where to start, it'll become easier. It still takes a little bit of time, I mean, because we don't do it like every day, but as long as we know how to start the letter, it becomes easier. So now I'm gonna find a letter that is not like in a capitalized font. I'm gonna go to a lowercase, just kind of break it up a little bit. With the, like, I don't know how you guys would write it, but if it's like multiple letter on one nail, I usually start at the end first to make sure, and I work my way up to make sure that I have enough space and leave enough space as I go up, because if I start with the first letter first, sometimes I end up making the first letter too big, and as I go down to the last letter, I ran out of space. So that's my little trick. And then of course, now when you pick up your paint, if you want to make a fine line, you wouldn't want to have that little droplet. You don't want to have a little droplet like that at the end, right? Because once you go into paint and there's a droplet like that at the end, it's gonna drop down like a glob instead of like a fine line for you. So what I'm doing is I'm actually wiping off the excess of the paint, and then now I'm gonna give you more of a, like, you see how fine the tip is? The finer the tip, the more of a fine line that it's gonna produce. And we cure it. So I'm gonna create these little, you know, the lights in it, like how I had it in the picture. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a dot first, one dot, maybe right here, maybe right here. I'm gonna find where it looks empty. Create your white dots. Remove all the paint from your paintbrush, all of it. When I mean all of it, it's literally all of it. And then I'm gonna put my brush in the middle, and then I'm gonna, you know what, I'm gonna use a different brush. Right in the middle, and drag it out. As well, and then I'm gonna mix it with a tiny bit with white, just a little bit. Okay, we want to dilute it down, just but not too much. We just want a little bit. And then I'm gonna go in and make a circle right around where that white was at. Be a lot easier if you guys have a dotting tool, right? Here. Go in and outline this blue, and then we'll be done. So now what we're doing now is we're going to cure all of the nails for like 45 seconds, just to be safe, because sometimes when you put on the paint and it's not fully cured, like really cured, and you go to paint on your top coat, sometimes you can end up dragging the it causes it like kind of, the paint kind of looks like it rubs off from the design. So make sure we over cure it a little bit, okay? Now once it's cured, we're going to go in with the matted top coat again. And we'll keep it a nice tiny slight tap. And this is the finished product. I didn't add any gems because I don't want to take up too much space, not space, but time. So, and again, if this is, usually this is how we're gonna go in and take our pictures. Let me show you guys so I would hold it like this. Look. I keep it on zoom like at number 1, you see that? And I don't ever tilt my hand like this inward, but I lay it really flat. And this way you can show the design, and the shape looks better that way too. Alright guys, that is the finished product, and I'll see you guys on the next video.